Hi everyone, today I'm going to tell you a crazy story that happened to me and my family last year. I had to drive 1000 miles across Turkey overnight to rescue my father. But before I tell you this story, I wanted to let you know that my channel now has merch. I ordered a few items to check the quality, and it's good. This backpack, this regular t-shirt with my logo, this premium t-shirt with the trident. I have also created a design featuring the CBF, these stickers, and there are many other products: mugs, keyrings, hoodies for men, women, kids, babies. The link is in the description. I will keep the t-shirts, but I will give away the backpack and the stickers. If you want them, please like the video and tell me in the comments where you would like to put the stickers. I ask all the viewers to give a thumbs up to their favorite answer. On August 15, I will check who has the most thumbs up, and that person will win the backpack and the 2 stickers. Let's now talk about the main topic of this video. We are on Ankara Street in Paris, and this is the back door of the Turkish embassy to France. I started the video here because we are going to talk about Turkey, and I also have lots of pictures and video to show you. Last year, in June 2025, my father traveled to Iran. He has Iranian roots, but he settled in France more than 50 years ago, long before I was born. He hadn't been to Iran for many years, but last year he decided to spend 10 days there visiting his family. He had a very enjoyable stay, but on the very last day before his return flight, Israel attacked Iran, starting what later became known as the 12-Day War. Because of the airstrikes and because the main airports in Iran were bombed, all the flights to and from Iran were cancelled, including my father's return flight. Many countries quickly organized the evacuation of their citizens stuck in Iran. France, unfortunately, did almost nothing. Our Ministry of Foreign Affairs launched a crisis unit, which was very difficult to reach by phone, and when you finally got through, all they did was tell their citizens, "Yep, you should leave Iran. Try to reach the Turkish-Iranian border by yourself, and there will be someone from the embassy there to make sure you can cross the border." That's all. The internet was completely cut off in Iran, and my father's French mobile phone wasn't working because of it. So I was only able to talk to him when he called me on the landline. Over the phone, we organized his exfiltration from Iran. The plan was as follows. He was staying in Esfahan, in the center of the country. It's a beautiful city if you have never heard of it. He had to find someone with a car who would agree to drive him from Esfahan to the Roissy border terminal. It's an 1100 kilometers journey, 700 miles. As for me, I booked a flight ticket to Erzurum, a city in eastern Turkey, and I booked a rental car there so that I could meet him at the border. From Erzurum to the border, it's 430 kilometers, or about 260 miles. Then I could come back to Erzurum with my father, and from there we could fly back to Paris the next day. I also booked a room for 2 nights at the Hilton Erzurum. The first night for me after I arrived, and the second night for my father and me before our flight to Paris the following day. Just a very few days later, I had my flight to Erzurum, and at the same time my father hit the road from Esfahan to the border with a taxi driver who agreed to take him. He charged a very reasonable fare to drive across the country at Troyes. It was very kind of him, may he be blessed. My father and I planned to meet at the border the next day at noon. As soon as our journeys began, I could no longer reach my father by phone, so we both have to be on time. However, things didn't go as planned. There was no direct flight from Paris to Erzurum, so I had a 3-hour stopover in Istanbul. I booked through the Turkish Airlines website. The flight from Paris to Istanbul was operated by Turkish Airlines, but the flight from Istanbul to Erzurum was operated by AJet, a subsidiary of Turkish Airlines. I boarded my first flight in Paris on time, but then we waited for 3 hours on the plane before it took off. The company didn't explain why it was delayed. Because of that, I missed my connecting flight to Erzurum. Of course, I was pissed off and I thought the company would find a solution. So I went to the AJet customer service desk at the airport, and these idiots made absolutely no effort to find a solution. A rude and scornful woman told me that all the subsequent flights to Erzurum were full, so the earliest flight she could offer me was 5 days later. I explained her the whole story. I told her my father would be waiting for me at the border the next day, that we had flights back to Paris on the following day, but she didn't care. She said she could also change my return trip so I could go to Erzurum 5 days later and fly back to Paris even later. However, she couldn't change my father's flight, basically saying that it wasn't her problem. It wasn't a good solution. It actually wasn't a solution at all. After arguing with that bitch, she finally offered to cancel and refund me my remaining flights, leaving me stranded in Istanbul, even though I had booked a round trip from Paris to Erzurum. I have traveled a lot in my life, but I have never had such a bad experience with an airline. AJet, you really suck. After insulting her and her fucking airline, I sat for a few minutes in the airport thinking about another solution. I couldn't imagine my father arriving at the border the next day and not finding me there. So I decided to go by road. I checked the route on Google Maps. It was more than 1,600 kilometers, about 1,000 miles. Driving such a distance overnight was tricky, but not impossible. Using my phone, I booked a rental car from 6th and a return flight from Istanbul to Paris 4 days later. This time, fuck Turkish Airlines and AJet, I booked with Transavia, and it was actually very affordable. I took a taxi because the 6th office was at Istanbul's other airport. The people of Turkey are amazing, but Istanbul taxi drivers, you guys are sons of bitches. They always try to scam foreigners. The taxi driver asked for €80 to drive me between the city's two airports. I knew he was scamming me, but I was in a hurry and I wasn't in the mood to argue with him too, so I paid. It was more expensive than my Transavia flight from Istanbul to Paris. At the 6th office, for the first time on this trip, I met someone who was genuinely helpful. His name was Efe, and Efe, if you're watching this video, or if someone who knows you is watching it, know that you are an amazing person. Thank you again so much. I had booked a Renault Clio because it was the cheapest option. Efe asked how far I wanted to drive, and I told him to the Iranian border and back. He looked surprised, so I told him the whole story. He said he couldn't let me drive that far in such a small car, so he upgraded me to a much better one. I hit the road and left Istanbul at 11 p.m. for a long road trip overnight. I covered the 1,600 kilometers as fast as I could, stopping only 2 times to refuel and grab a coffee. I didn't sleep at all that night or eat anything, but I was so focused on my goal that I didn't feel tired and angry. I shot some video during this journey. This one at 3 a.m. This one at 4 a.m. This one at my first stop at 4:40 a.m. Look how beautiful this place is. At 5 a.m. I saw the sunrise. I really enjoyed the morning because I could finally see the scenery after driving for 6 hours in the dark. The highways in Turkey are excellent, and it was actually quite easy to cross the country quickly. In the eastern part of the country, there are many mountains, and the scenery is absolutely amazing. Of course, even if I did my best, I didn't arrive at the border by noon. My father arrived earlier and he crossed the border. And guess what? There was absolutely no one from the French embassy there, and it was actually pointless because entering Turkey as a French citizen isn't difficult at all. French Ministry of Foreign Affairs, you guys were totally useless in this whole story. Once in Turkey, my father's phone worked again and he was finally able to call me. I told him what had happened with the airline and that I was on my way. Rather than wait at the border, he found someone to drive him to the city of Van, about 100 kilometers from the border. Finally, at 5 p.m., mission accomplished. I met up with my father and we went together to Erzurum. After such a long and exhausting journey, both for my father and me, the Hilton Erzurum felt like heaven. My father took a nap at the hotel while I went for a stroll around the city center to see what it was like. It's a small but gorgeous city. Then we had a delicious diner. Guys, the food there is just wonderful. And it cost almost nothing. The full diner, including drinks, was about 5 euros per person. Early the next day, I dropped my father off at the Erzurum airport and he flew back to Paris via Istanbul. As for me, remember that fucking AJet had cancelled and refunded my remaining flights, and I had to return the rental car to 6th at Istanbul airport, and I booked a Transavia flight from there. So I had to cross the country again, this time in the opposite direction, but at least I could take my time. I hit the road shortly after I dropped off my father at the airport, and I did it in 2 days. I stopped in Sivas and spent 1 hour there. Cappadocia, where I spent the night. The next morning, I went to see the famous hot air balloons of Cappadocia, but there weren't any flying that day because it was too windy. Then I headed to Ankara, stopped there for lunch, took a stroll around the city, and I hit the road again before finally arriving in Istanbul that night. During this trip, I really enjoyed how nice and welcoming Turkish people were, except of course for that beach at AJet customer service and the Istanbul taxi drivers. Anyway, people were very helpful, happy to meet a foreigner and eager to show how awesome their country is. And it really is. I had been to Istanbul quite a few times before. If you have the opportunity to visit it, you definitely should. That night, I didn't go to the main sites because I had already seen them. I just went to Shamlija Mosque, a huge mosque built only a few years ago, where I had never been before. Around midnight, I went to Istiklal Avenue to have a kunefe and a cup of tea. This thing is so good and so sweet, it would have been a crime to leave Turkey without having eaten one. Then I went to the airport to return the car and catch my night flight to Paris. What an adventure, but everything turned out well. My father was finally back home, and so I was. A few days later, I emailed AJet customer service to complain and request compensation. Under European law, because my delayed journey started in France, they have to pay me a compensation. Those idiots never replied to me. Their customer service is just as shitty as their flight. I could sue them, but I prefer to use my time and energy for better things. I will just never fly again with them, and I will let everyone know how poorly they treat their customers. I hope you enjoyed this video and this story. Don't forget to enter the giveaway by leaving a comment and like your favorite comments. See you guys!